What we're going to be talking about today, it's actually been quite a big theme through a number of different really great presentations that I was lucky enough to attend yesterday, just around looking at what are the different types of insights we can get by some of the data you get from a very basic Magento implementation, and then how can we build on that for some of the guys who are in a more of an advanced mode as well. So primarily we're going to be talking about transactional data, about some of the product data, but also looking at some of the kind of patterns and analysis that we can do at various different levels of sophistication to kind of figure out how can we turn some of the data that we have into information and into insight to make better marketing and business decisions regarding our customers. As Darren said, my name's Alex Timmerman. I'm the Vice President of Client Success here at Ecommerce. We're lucky enough to have 50 people based out of Indianapolis here in the US, but we actually have 14 international offices. And my job, I don't know whether it's a look or skill, is to look after the 14 international offices and our 1,000 clients to make sure that they actually use our cloud-based marketing platform. But what we're going to be talking about today is really broken down into three key areas. The first area is something that's particularly important, is we're going to be talking about the customer lifecycle and just some of the basic terminology that's used within customer lifecycle, but also some of the key metrics behind it as well. I'm not sure how many people actually register to Business Insider, but there was a fantastic article this morning on Jet.com and why the VC community isn't particularly enamored with their strategy. Because while they've grown 50% year on year, they've actually grown 50% year on year only from first-time customers. And their whole strategy is based around, okay, we're going to undercut Amazon on price. VCs are spooked because they're not actually able to turn those customers into repeat customers, and they're not able to inspire loyalty from those people. And one of the biggest themes that we've had across a number of different things here today is just how can we actually get people through the life cycle? Understanding not just a basic marketing funnel, but how do we get a customer to go from being a lead to a first-time purchasing customer, but then appreciating that the journey doesn't stop there. How do we get a first-time purchasing customer to be a repeat buyer? And from repeat buyers, how do we inspire loyalty and brand advocacy there as well? There's a really interesting topic there's quite a lot of buzz around at the moment, which is this concept of customer lifetime value. The difficulty with customer lifetime value is it means many different things to different people. So what we're going to try and do with customer lifetime value is look at some basic tactics of how we can at least have a number to understand what the value of a customer is, but then look at some of the more advanced techniques to actually take that a little bit further to understand how do we identify our best customers. So no customer is created equal. Some of your customers are better customers than other customers. And customer lifetime value is about understanding, first of all, what's the value of all of my customers, the population as it were, but then how do I break that down into a little bit more of a granular level to understand which customers are worthy of investment and which customers are actually driving my business forward. And finally, we're going to be looking at something that is near and dear to my own heart, which is for a small customer-focused business, and even for those with larger teams, being able to execute this at scale is too difficult for the average human. And one of the biggest things that we've got for a lot of people now is you guys have a ton of data at your disposal, but understanding what to do with it and then actually actioning that takes time, effort, and a lot of resources. But with the accessibility of predictive analytics and algorithms and machine learning, what we're able to do is to kind of look for technologies and look for simple problems to solve for, but then automate those processes as well using technologies. So first of all, we'll just take a quick look, as I say, at customer life cycle. So the customer life cycle, in our opinion, is all about understanding how do I get someone from visiting my website to being an identifiable contact to actually going through that discovery phase and making a purchase, but then moving them through that funnel to be able to go from, as I say, first purchase to repeat purchase, active, but also understanding churn. When is a customer not likely to make a repeat purchase as well, and when should we be perhaps a little bit worried about their activity and their behaviors? And for a lot of businesses, this is actually really challenging, but it's really challenging just because of the technologies that we're using and how we typically measure the success of our businesses. In e-commerce, the vast majority of metrics that we're tasked with actually using on a daily and a weekly basis, they're very much in-the-moment metrics. It's about how much money am I being asked to make right now. It's, okay, great, boost your average order value, but from who and how? and capture mobile sales. Okay, great, but what about people who are using mobile as discovery, but they're actually purchasing on a desktop on a different channel at a different time? And there's so much data and so many different metrics that we have access to, it's actually quite difficult for us to sit there and make meaningful decisions around what we should do next for a lot of guys. And one of the biggest things for us is, if you actually look at e-commerce, and there was a great presentation yesterday from a menswear retailer, just a guy talking about his own kind of reason for starting a business, which is retail is broken. But retail isn't broken, e-commerce is broken to a large degree. And I'll explain what I mean by that. If you were operating a physical store, so if you had a physical store on a main street in any city in the world, particularly here in the US, if you only converted 2% of the traffic that went into that physical store, you would fire that store manager. In the e-commerce, if you can get someone who can convert 2 or 3% of their web traffic into purchasing customers, you generally give them a high five or a pat on the back. Because e-commerce is difficult. Your nearest competitor is not down the street in a different city, in a different zip code. They're literally a click away. It's very competitive. And one of the biggest things for us, and one of the most interesting statistics, is of the people who do actually convert, so of all of the traffic that does go to your website, and there were some great presentations yesterday around how to analyze this and break this down, but for the people who do purchase, 70% of them are single order customers. And as I say, one of the reasons that Jet.com is having a little bit of a bashing within the investment community right now is, unless they can show they can turn those acquisition costs into long-term lifetime value, then their business model doesn't really make sense. Because they're out there asking for more and more money to spend on acquiring customers. And if you look at some of the stories from people like Groupon, who went from billion-dollar valuations to being bought at kind of dimes and cents, it's because they could never successfully convert those customers and their database into long-term sustainable revenues. And long-term sustainable revenues comes from actually just getting a handle on these statistics, first of all. Because Pareto's law really does hold true within a lot of e-commerce businesses. There are 20% of your customers who drive up to 80% of your revenue when you analyze it over a 5-year period. Repeat purchasing customers actually drive a lot of businesses forward. But for all of the people in the room, again, I've been advised against audience participation, so I won't do it. But I'd ask yourself, can you right here, right now, tell yourself how many active repeat purchasing customers do you have from your store? Is the information accessible to you? This information is valuable because for every 1% increase in your active repeat purchasing customers, you can drive a 10% increase in your long-term customer lifetime revenues for your entire business. A 1% increase drives a 10% increase in revenues over time because these people stay loyal to your brand. These people buy from you again and again at a much, much lower cost per acquisition. And one of the reasons that we do that is just, it's common sense. If you look at the main goals and the main outcomes that we're looking for from marketing activities, it's to try and get a conversion. But one of the things that we're out there working on with our customers, and also a lot of other folks in the market are looking at right now, is when you get a conversion for your web store, that conversion is coming from who? Is it a new visitor? Is it a repeat visitor? Is it a first-time buyer? Is it a repeat purchasing customer? Is this guy a VIP? Loyalty is a big, big topic at a lot of the conferences these days, as is customer lifetime value, because not all clients are created equal. Some of your customers are more valuable than others. And it's about understanding and plotting out, even at a very basic level like this, how do I get customers to go from being a lead or a website visitor into a repeat purchasing customer? Because if you look at your cost per acquisition, I can pretty much guarantee everyone in the room here is not spending less and less each year on customer acquisition. We're having to spend more and more. And to justify that cost per acquisition, it's all about, okay, well, once I've acquired a customer, I have their data and I can get them to purchase from me again. But how are you doing that? How are you measuring that? Do you have a view of how successful you are at actually getting people to go from a lead to an active repeat purchasing customer? And ask yourself, do you also have any kind of mechanism of understanding at what point is a customer an inactive customer? Just because you have their data doesn't mean they're a customer anymore. If they haven't purchased from you for 3 or 4 years and they haven't engaged with your brand for 12 months or more, are they still a customer? And being able to understand and plot out your customers in a very, very simple distribution like this helps you make better decisions about your business. And one of the reasons that it does that is because of this chart that we're looking at here. And this is actually crunched from live client data from 100 e-commerce and retail clients from 6 or 7 different countries distributed across the UK and mainland Europe. And there's a very familiar statistic in marketing that it's 5 times more costly to acquire than retain. I'd flip that on its head. And the reason I would do that is if you look on the left-hand side at the conversion rate from a lead, the conversion rate from a lead over time, so this is analyzing data over a period of time, conversion rate from leads for our clients with highly optimized programs is 7%. However, if you look at the conversion rate of an active repeat purchasing customer, we're looking at almost 5 times more likely for an active customer to purchase than for a brand new visitor to your website. It's not 5 times more costly for them to acquire, sorry, 5 times more costly to acquire a lead. It's that the guy's 5 times more likely to buy from you once he's already bought from you again and had a great experience. So being able to understand how you can drive people from one section to the other and really get a hold on what happens beyond the basic marketing funnel can make huge, huge impacts into your business. And I'll explain how. So what we're looking at here is a really, really healthy e-commerce business that's growing 50% year on year. And we're lucky enough to have a client of ours allow us to use them as a test case as what you should do and what you shouldn't do. So this is how a client was actually viewing their business, and it's a type of analysis that we've been running called business impact. And what we've been looking at is what's the business impact of repeat purchasing customers on your e-commerce business. Over here, what we're looking at is over a period of 12 months, how much their revenues are growing. And what you will see is that there's a big spike in December and January revenues, and it's just the way that these guys work in their particular business model. But there's a really healthy curve where they're growing 50% year on year. And for this business, the way that their CFO and the way that their CEO looked at their business is, if I can actually get a real handle on customer acquisition costs, if I can optimize my conversion rate, then I can actually predict how much money I'm going to bring in. I'll give you more budget if you can tell me what you're going to be able to do with that. If you can keep a hold of those levers, how much it costs to acquire, at what rate you actually convert, and what the value is once we've got that, then we've got a healthy, sustainable, growing business. But if you look at this, what we're looking at here is the impact on their business of first-time purchasing customers. If we actually layer on that of what happens with their repeat purchasing customers, a much, much smaller percentage of their database. So for this particular client, 70% of their business is again, first-time purchasing customers. But if you look at the impact in revenues from the other 30% in terms of how much they spend, not their average order value, but literally, this is month on month, how much those people are spending, this business is growing at 350%. And the reason they're growing at 350% is they have very highly tuned programs that are looking at post-purchase, did you enjoy the experience? They're looking at how to get recommendations. They're looking at how to actually build on that customer and make sure that they get value from those products once they've bought it. They understand that getting a customer to not just buy from them, but be happy enough with that purchase to buy from them again is the reason that they're not growing at 50%, they're growing at 350%. And it's these types of levers and this type of data, in whatever format that you do, at least know the basic metrics. Do you differentiate between a purchase coming from a lead, a first time, or a repeat purchasing customer? And the value in doing so is just being able to figure out how do you actually exponentially increase the value of your business. And if we're looking a little bit more, okay, we've talked about the customer lifecycle and the customer lifecycle stages. This concept of customer lifetime value and defining it is particularly important, especially from different groups and different cohorts. And by different groups and different cohorts, I mean, if we look at the most basic of the basic of how you calculate customer lifetime value, we just take all of your revenue and divide it by the number of your customers, and that gives you the value of a customer. But is that truly representative of customer lifetime value? So if we just take all of your customers and divide the amount of revenue you've ever made by the number of customers, over time, that's how much a customer is worth. But as we've already discussed, a first-time purchasing customer actually is worth a lot less than a repeat purchasing customer because we're looking at repeat purchases. Someone who's actually purchasing 3, 4, 5 times over a 12 or a 24-month period isn't the same value as someone who's just made a single purchase. So if you're making decisions on acquisition and customer retention based on the top number, it's artificial. Because someone who's spent 3, 4, 5 times over a time period, they've spent more money. Their average order value might be exactly the same as a first-time purchasing customer, but their lifetime value is high because they're spending more frequently. And if we look at that, then we're also saying, okay, so it's a better customer lifetime value calculation, but is it really representative? And one of the biggest challenges that we've been trying to address with clients is how do we take a more sophisticated model to figure out, okay, is this guy really worth investing in? And something that's been used in brick and mortar stores since literally the 1930s is recency, frequency, and monetary value, RFM modeling. It started with pieces of cardboard and people punching holes in it in the US. But how do we bring that into the digital age and be able to have some basic rules and basic scoring to say, how do I figure out whether or not a customer is going to buy from me again? And it's about looking at what time do you get worried that they're not going to purchase from you again? Just some basic analysis. Being able to say, recency score is all about understanding, is this guy going to buy from me again? Or am I actually worried? What's the window when I start needing to looking at promotions, free shipping, vouchers, some kind of incentive to get this guy to come back and make a repeat purchase? But what's more important is also looking at the value of those individual customers. Has this guy bought from you once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times? How many customers on your database have actually bought from you 10, 20, or 30 times? A lot of businesses haven't actually even done the analysis yet. For you guys, ask yourself, how many times does someone have to purchase before you consider them to be a valuable customer? Have you ever done even a basic Excel or SQL query? How many customers on your database have bought from you more than 5 times? Just having the basic understanding of those numbers and just doing some really, really basic analysis gives you an idea of, okay, of all of the customer data that you have, which are the customers that are actually driving your business forward? Which are the ones that are most valuable in monetary terms? And the monetary scoring that we're looking at here is over time. What we're trying to do and what we've really been able to do with our clients is to move them away from short-term, in-the-moment metrics, like conversion rates and average order value and web traffic numbers, to be able to understand, okay, over the lifetime, how much is this customer actually worth? And at what point does a customer become important? And I'll explain why this is important with a few examples. And one of the things that we're looking at here is a really basic distribution graph. And this is something we've been doing for kind of the last 10 years with our clients. But honestly, for the first 5, it was a lot of number crunching, a lot of manual effort. But it was worthwhile. Because what we were able to do was to be able to sit with our clients and actually just provide some data to say, okay, everyone talks about a win-back campaign. Everyone talks about churning or defecting customers, but how many times have you actually done any analysis to have a look at what that graph looks like? What you're looking at here is a live client example from a client who's been gracious enough to let us use this in a few presentations to be able to say, okay, over time, when do people stop purchasing from us again? And this is actually a very typical graph that you will see from an e-commerce business. You have a ton of guys who actually purchase from you in a very short window. If someone doesn't purchase from you or purchase again from you in the first 90 days, look at the drop-off. The curve literally just plummets. But there is still a long tail here. So there is still a long tail where we do have an opportunity to convert some of these 70% of people who only purchase from us once into repeat purchasing customers. But then there's a little drop-off again, where statistically, it's unlikely that this guy is ever going to make a purchase from us again. So do you want to spend money on AdWords with them? Do you want to spend money on Facebook ads with them? Do you want to spend money with your email program or your mobile program targeting these people if statistically they are unlikely to ever purchase from you again? And having a very, very basic graph like this of just literally saying, show me over time how many customers, plot the date of the number of customers and the date of last purchase. And having this type of graph just gives you some kind of meaningful data point to say, at what point do you stop investing in a customer? At what point do you say, really, enough is enough? It's not worth spending money on this guy, because statistically, it's unlikely he's actually going to make a repeat purchase. And it's understanding who not to market to is actually just as important as understanding who to market to as well. I choose this graph because Look, e-commerce is complicated because people are complicated. We're not talking about data, we're talking about individuals. Your customers are very, very different people. And what we're looking at here is an example of a client where they're looking at their average order value. And they're saying, look, they've got a great handle on their business. Before working with us, they already knew the value of a first-time buyer, the value of an active customer. And what you do have here in an active customer is the average order value of an active customer is $117. So they make a business decision to say, anyone spending over $100, we'll give you free shipping. If you look at their actual customers when you divide it into cohorts below, their average order value isn't $100. They have a ton of people where their average order value is $28 or $34. In terms of number of customers, they have huge numbers of customers in this group. They have very few customers who are actually spending a lot on bulk items. And this was actually a company who do proteins and supplements. And the person who's spending $300 on protein and supplements is very, very different to someone who's spending $28 on proteins and supplements. They're very, very different customers with very, very different behaviors. But if you just lump them together and have a single view of the world, you're making a business decision to say, my promotion strategy is when you spend $100, I'll give you free shipping. That's great, but it's only great for their most valuable customers. The vast majority of their customers don't benefit from that offer. And if you've got someone who is actually spending $28, $34 and on the same order and refilling that order, replenishing that order month every 2 months, we're not serving that customer and recognizing their value to his business. You're making a business decision on a limited data set. And the impact of that is you're alienating the vast majority of your customers. It's great in that you're catering to the customers that are making you the most money, but they're in the minority in terms of the number of customers. And what we've actually been able to do, using the same analysis with some of our customers, is you will find a lot of B2B guys on your B2C store. Every client example, what we have seen is people who are buying bulk orders from your online store, but then selling them in their own retail outlets. Or they're buying them in bulk as kind of power users. And like I say, whether it's a supplements business or whether it's an electronics business, what we do find is we always have these outliers. And if you don't have a view of your customers and be able to have a look at these outliers, then we could be making some really critical decisions on promotional strategy and what the average value of a customer is on a very, very limited or perhaps misconceived view of the world. There's other types of data within Magento that are actually really, really interesting for us to look at when we start looking at, okay, it's not just about how much someone is buying, and it's not just about how much they're spending, but what are they spending their money on? So for all of the guys in the room, one of the things that's been particularly important for us to do with any of our clients, whether it's Magento or on another e-commerce platform, is to identify, okay, what are the top products and what are the flop products? But also, who's buying those top products? Is it coming from everyone, or is it coming from a certain subset of our customers? Are you selling a ton of products, but it's only being bought by a small group of people? You might think it's a top-selling product just because of the numbers, but it's not actually the product that most of your clients are looking at. And it's being able to get an idea of what's selling well, what's selling less well, but more importantly, who's buying it. Returns data is also fundamentally important to understand why people don't buy from you again. So if you have a look at the amount of returns that are happening in e-commerce, and here in the US, it's anywhere between 25 and 30% for someone who's in kind of the fashion or the e-commerce sector. And that's a scary statistic. If you're looking at 30% of the goods that you sell coming back, then that makes a big, big difference in terms of your costs, in terms of your margins. But when you analyze it, who's returning? Is it the first-time purchasing customers, or is it actually the active repeat purchasing customers? And what we're finding is people who are doing some analysis on this return data. We're losing the mic. Okay. Being able to see, okay, are people returning it because they don't know enough about your product? And we had some great presentations yesterday from some very unique businesses. But when someone's buying a product and they don't really understand how to use it, how to get value from it, they'll return it. So is it first-time purchasing customers that are returning products, and what are you doing in terms of education, and what are you doing on those product pages to educate the clients to be able to say, here's what this product's about, and here's how you're actually going to get value from it. And being able to have a look at this kind of affinity to be able to say, okay, from our top products, our flop products, and from these returns, who is responsible for this, helps us make better business decisions and helps us better understand our customers. And what we're looking at here is just some very, very simple things that you can do within Magento and within the store. What you're looking at on the left-hand side, there's 3 different columns. The first column is the category, the hierarchy, that this product category that we're analyzing. The second one is the individual product SKU. The third column is in absolute numbers, how much revenue is coming from that. And like I say, this is something that you can do with very little outside influence just to get a better understanding of, okay, for the products that are driving the most revenue, is it because they're really expensive products, or is it because I'm shipping a ton of them? So if the 3 different dimensions that we're looking at here, we're looking at, okay, what's our best product by revenue? What product is making me the most money? What's our best product in terms of our best seller? What's the product that I ship the most units of? And then what's my best product by margin or average order value? Just getting a basic understanding of which products are driving our business forward is a fundamentally important thing, and it is something that's quite simple for us to do. What's also important is to understand our products that are doing less well. What products are bringing you the least amount of money? Do you continue investing and buying these products if they're not driving your business forward? What's our products that we're not shipping enough of? And what's our products where simply you're not making enough margin for that to be a going concern? But where that gets interesting is looking at who's actually buying them. And some really, really simple distribution graphs are actually really, really powerful. And one of the things that I ask everyone to plot is to just figure out, okay, you want to sell products, and you want to figure out which products are selling well, but also which products are bringing in the most revenue. And we do this on a product level, but we also do this on a category level. And one of the reasons that we do this type of graph and this type of analysis, and it's particularly important with people who have a really wide product inventory, is that if you have a look at a distribution graph like this for defecting or churning customers, it actually helps you understand a key piece of information, which is, do you no longer stock a product that these people want to buy? And one of the reasons that people stop buying from you, particularly if you've got a very diverse product catalog, is some people pivot, some people churn, some people change. You start making better, new and improved versions of a product. Or you stop making certain types of products or stop carrying certain products because of various different reasons. And if you've got a very wide product catalog, sometimes it's pretty easy to miss this type of data. But if we can just have a quick look at, okay, what are the products that my best customers want to buy? And what are the products that my churning customers want to buy? It helps us make some really meaningful business decisions around what products am I actually going to carry. For us, one of the things that's been most interesting with our clients, and I'm conscious I've said that a few times, is just having a look at, okay, what are my top selling product categories for repeat purchasing customers? So if I can figure out what my repeat purchasing customers actually want to buy, that informs my acquisition strategy, because I can then acquire the customers that I'm most likely to retain. So if you're looking at, in this case, jewelry, we're looking at how do I get a first-time purchasing customer to be a repeat purchasing customer? What I want to do is I want to figure out who are the guys interested in jewelry. If my repeat purchasing customers, my most valuable customers, are interested in jewelry, then I want to find more people like them. So I know that if I'm actually out there with my Facebook display, email advertising, be able to promote those product lines that I know will bring me the customers that I'm most likely to able to retain, it's a really important piece of information. And being able to layer this together and bring this together is particularly important. But as I've said, what we do appreciate is e-commerce is complicated. There's a lot of different dimensions. There's a lot of different products. There's a lot of different customers. And for people here who are sitting with 100, 200, 300,000 people in a Magento store database, but you're also carrying 10, 20, 30 different thousand product lines, it's really difficult to be able to do this at scale manually. And the biggest advent over the last kind of 3 or 4 years is making kind of big data was just about storage. big data at its heart was about storage and being able to access and crunch massive amount of data. But what we're now seeing is a shift of people understanding, like, okay, what do I do with that? If I've got all of this data in this big one system, how do I find meaningful patterns that help me better serve my customers and provide a more relevant experience that helps me get people from this lead to first time to active to repeat purchasing customer space? And it's an ongoing debate. When people think about machine learning, data science, predictive analytics, it's very cold. It's very clinical, and it's not very emotive. You generally think, okay, if I'm going to make a business decision, as a human, I understand that, and I can explain that to my shareholders, my boss, my colleagues. If a machine is making some of those decisions for you, it's only fair that people do actually get a little bit nervous and less comfortable with it. People, when they think about machine learning, when they think about marketing or business decisions being made by machinery, they think about the Terminator. They think about HAL. And HAL was 2001, The Space Odyssey. It's in the past. It's already happened. People have been freaked out for a long, long while, ever since, the movie Metropolis right the way through to A Space Odyssey, about machines taking over. But machines are dumb at the moment. And they're not actually great at making autonomous decisions. They're great at making decisions when we actually set the parameters, when we set the problem we're trying to solve for. Interesting fact that I got from one of my colleagues, which genuinely blew me away, is when do you think the first aircraft actually had an autopilot installed? So, mental note. When was autopilot first used in a commercial flight? 1912. 1912, we let machines fly us through the sky without a parachute. It's not new. It's been around us for a long, long time, but everyone's comfortable with knowing that when you're on a plane, there's an autopilot. Everyone knows that, I hope. I hope I haven't just kind of ruined anything. Santa Claus isn't real either. But the key thing is it's machines are taking over some basic functions. The reason takeoff and landing is still done by people is the comfort factor. People aren't comfortable with it yet. But if you look at self-driving cars, people are freaked out about self-driving cars. But we've had autopilot for aircraft for more than 100 years. It's crazy. But what's happening is this is an ongoing debate for a lot of people. So we're promoting this white paper just to really get some practical truths around where machine learning is being used right now, but also where machine learning should be used in the coming months and the coming years. And one of the biggest things is, look, if we can actually bring all of our data in a Magento store into a single environment, great. But it's too intimidating. Like, we can't do anything with it because it is too much data. It will only provide us the answer if we ask the right questions. And the machinery can provide us with the answers. But we still need marketers, we still need humans to ask the right questions. And some of those questions we'll talk about in this next section. And as a business, what we're doing right now with our clients, and as I say, we've got more than 1,000 clients in 200 plus countries now. And we are collecting and analyzing behaviors on more than 1.2 billion consumers. So across all of our client base, there's 1.2 billion consumers that we're profiling and analyzing. And what we're doing is we're trying to solve for the same problems. We're trying to solve, okay, in your Magento store, how many people are leads? It's just a piece of data. They're not customers yet, they're potential customers. How many people are customers, repeat purchasing customers, and VIPs? So what is a VIP? But more importantly, what we're now looking at is who are the customers who are ex-customers? Who are the people who aren't buying from you anymore and are statistically unlikely to ever do so? And by bringing all of this information into one place, what we're able to do now is to better serve those people. If we understand who they are, what they're purchasing, and where they are in the life cycle, we can do two things. We can understand when to reach out to them in terms of marketing campaigns and marketing activities, but also when they're on site, we can actually personalize that experience because we know that customer better. If you think about the physical store and the physical world, You're up to 3 times more likely to purchase in a store if you speak to a retail assistant or a retail associate. And it's because of the human factor, but it's also because they help you navigate that store. It's not left to you as a consumer to figure out what to do in a physical store. They have signage, they have promotions, they have people to help direct you into the right place. But on your website, what do you do to actually recognize whether this customer is valuable to your business? On your website, what do you do to actually help this customer go from one place to another? And one of the biggest things that's happening in the industry right now is this concept of personalization. And personalization isn't just around product recommendations, it's about a personalized experience. Don't give a free shipping voucher for your first purchase to a repeat purchasing customer. It's annoying. It's also just rude. This guy knows that you get free shipping from a first-time purchase because he's already done it. And if someone's actually getting a promotion for a flat-screen TV that's now 50% on sale, and he just bought it 2 weeks ago, it's not nice. It's not a great experience. The guy might swear. But the key thing for us is being able to kind of put all of this into practice. We do appreciate that as humans, it is very, very difficult to do. I was lucky enough to be at a client conference of ours in Europe last week where we have a single user who, because they've actually really set out the business problem that they're trying to solve for, she is responsible for email, mobile, and on-site campaigns for 120 million customers. They have a marketing team of 1. And the reason that they do that is they don't actually do any batch marketing campaigns anymore. They just have basic lifecycle marketing triggers. And as an app-based business, they're looking for scale. They want to serve as many people as possible. But they want to do it with as few resources as possible. And the way they've done that is to just set the business problem they're solving for and have the machinery help them with the execution. The one person's still responsible for the decision-making, but the execution, the manual operative tasks, are now being done more and more by machines. And what we want to do is to just kind of bring this to life a little bit, because I appreciate numbers, statistics, machine learning, HAL, the Terminator. It's not that friendly and it's not that accessible. And what we are talking about is consumers. So we've got a consumer here, Jane, and Jane spends on average $150. She shops for sneakers. She actively searches and browses your website on a regular basis. She frequently opens and clicks your email campaigns, and she occasionally uses your mobile app. How do we use this data to understand, is she actually going to make a purchase right now, or is she still in that discovery mode? What is she waiting for? If she's doing all this browsing and all of this discovery, why? Why do you just come on site and purchase? What will actually push her over the edge? Is she waiting for a coupon? Is she waiting for free shipping? Is she waiting for a sale event? What does she want to buy? And where does she want to buy it? What we're looking at is a business problem. The business problem is for this individual customer, for Jane, do I care? Is Jane a good customer? And this is the crux of what we've been talking about here today. All of these techniques around customer lifetime value and around customer lifecycle status is about understanding what makes a good customer. And if we look at Jane here, she's a great customer. She buys online, she buys in store, she hardly returns any products. She is worth our marketing investment. She spends most of our time in New York City. She's likely to buy from her favorite store on Fifth Avenue, and she'll only do so when you've got a promotion or a discount. This is one consumer. This is one customer. We need to take into account her location. We need to take into account she buys offline, she browses online, and she does so on both her mobile device and her desktop. That's one consumer. And for one consumer, if we look at all of these different variables, it is impossible for an individual person to do this at scale without help. And the next most interesting thing that's happening in marketing right now is being able to automate some of these manual operative tasks to be able to help us execute at scale more of these personalized marketing activities. That's what we do. So from our piece of it, what we're looking to try and do is to make it more accessible to marketers and to e-commerce owners to understand, okay, what makes a good customer? What's the anatomy of a great customer? And where should I best invest in? And the biggest thing that we've actually brought to the table over the last 12 months, and I promise there's not too much more of a shameless plug, but the biggest thing for us and the thing that our customers like most is we're using machine learning and data science to be able to say what your next best action is. To say of all of the things you could be doing right now, what should I do next? How well are you doing at customer acquisition? How well are you doing at customer retention? How well are you doing at winning back some of these churning customers? It's too difficult for you to do all of those things at once. So if there's 15, 20, 30 things for us to do, if the sky's the limit, where do we start? And what we're using technology for is to help narrow that net and understand the inputs to say, of all of the data that you have, we now understand what makes a great customer. We also understand at what point you should worry about someone not purchasing from you again. And we're using this information to give you signals to say, okay, here's where you should actually focus your time, energy, and attention. So that's pretty much us from pretty much everything from me. Thanks for your time, energy, and attention. It's always difficult being the first slot of the day after what I hear was a pretty good party last night. But a little bit about the company. As I say, you might not have heard about Ecommerce yet, but we're growing phenomenally here in the US. We're lucky enough to be featuring into a lot of analyst reports, but the biggest thing that you'll get from the guys here at the stands is we've got a heritage of 15 years of understanding B2C consumer behavior. And what we're doing now is actually putting that into practice with technology, just to be able to help our clients more effectively personalize and engage with their customers at scale. So thanks for your time, thanks for your energy, thanks for your attention. I think if we've got a few minutes for questions, we'll take it, but thank you very much.